The science of melatonin. Do you ever wonder why darkness feels like an invitation to slow down? Why your body seems to know that it is time to rest even before you close your eyes? Behind this invisible rhythm stands one of nature's quietest messengers, melatonin. Today we will explore what this molecule really does, how light, temperature, and timing decide whether you drift into deep rest or keep turning through the night, and why your brain cannot simply switch off like a lamp when your evening habits fight its internal clock. So take a deep breath, dim the light around you if you can, and let us dive into the science of sleep's most mysterious hormone. What melatonin really is, what happens inside your brain when darkness falls. Melatonin is not a sleeping pill created by evolution. It is a signal, a biochemical whisper that tells every cell in your body that night has arrived. It is produced by a small structure deep inside your brain, the pineal gland. This tiny gland sits near the center of your head, behind your eyes, and acts as a translator between light and biology. When evening comes and the daylight fades, your retina sends a message to the hypothalamus, specifically to a region called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This area works as your body's master clock. It coordinates millions of smaller clocks throughout your organs. Once this master clock senses that light is disappearing, it instructs the pineal gland to release melatonin into the bloodstream. Within minutes, melatonin begins to rise, and your body temperature starts to drop slightly. Heart rate slows. Metabolism shifts into a quieter gear. The brain becomes less interested in alertness and more open to repair. You begin to feel the subtle pull toward rest, how light shapes the night. Have you ever wondered why artificial light can feel so tiring at night? In modern life, light is no longer just sunlight. We have screens, lamps, street lights, and devices that emit strong blue wavelengths even at midnight. These blue wavelengths are the exact kind of light that tells your brain it is still day, and when your brain believes that, melatonin release is suppressed. Research shows that even 30 minutes of bright screen exposure before bed can delay melatonin production by more than an hour. This does not only make it harder to fall asleep, it also shortens the time you spend in deep, restorative stages of sleep later in the night. In natural darkness, melatonin levels begin to rise about 2 hours before your normal bedtime. This window is your biological evening. If you spend that period surrounded by artificial light, the signal becomes confused. The body's clocks lose coordination, and the rhythm that should carry you gently toward rest becomes noisy and unstable. That is why experts now speak of circadian hygiene. It is the art of protecting your internal night from the intrusion of technology. Something as simple as dimming lights, using warm colors, or turning screens to night mode can restore balance within days. The deep connection between temperature and melatonin. Why do we sleep better in a cool room? As melatonin increases, your body naturally cools down. This cooling is not a side effect. It is a requirement for deep sleep. When your core temperature drops by about 1 degree Celsius, it signals that energy can shift away from alert muscles and into brain repair. If your bedroom is too warm, or if you exercise heavily right before bed, your temperature stays elevated and the melatonin signal weakens. You might fall asleep but wake up several times without knowing why. In contrast, if your environment supports cooling, light clothing, a ventilated room, or a brief cold shower, melatonin peaks more efficiently and your sleep becomes more stable. The connection between temperature and melatonin also works in the morning. When sunlight hits your eyes, it suppresses melatonin and slightly raises your core temperature again. That rise is your biological morning. It resets the clock for the next night. The melatonin misunderstanding. Why do so many people take melatonin but still feel tired? Because melatonin supplements are easy to buy, Many people treat them as sleep medicine. But melatonin itself does not make you sleep. It tells your system that night has arrived. If your stress hormones are high, if caffeine is still active in your bloodstream, or if your mind is filled with late-night thoughts, melatonin cannot override those signals. Scientific studies show that supplements can help with jet lag or shift work where timing is disrupted. But for most people, the goal is not to add more melatonin. It is to restore the natural rise and fall of what your brain already produces. The key question is not how much melatonin do I take? It is what am I doing that keeps my brain from making it on its own? How stress silences the night. Why does stress keep you awake even when you are exhausted? Cortisol and melatonin are like dance partners that move in opposite directions. When one rises, the other falls. Under chronic stress, cortisol stays high late into the evening. That keeps the brain in a state of readiness and blocks melatonin release. You might recognize this as lying in bed, exhausted but alert. Your thoughts run, your body refuses to settle, and you feel trapped between wakefulness and fatigue. This is not a lack of willpower. It is simply chemistry in conflict. The fastest way to restore balance is not through supplements, but through signals. Soft light, gentle breathing, slow exhalation. Each of these actions tells the nervous system that the threat is over. When the threat fades, cortisol lowers and melatonin rises naturally. The quiet intelligence of darkness. What happens in your body when the lights finally go out? When your environment becomes dark, your body does not only rest, it repairs. Melatonin acts as one of the most powerful antioxidants in nature. It neutralizes free radicals, protects DNA, and supports the mitochondria that fuel every cell. At night, your immune system becomes more active, and your brain performs a process called glyphatic clearance, washing away metabolic waste that accumulates during wakefulness. These functions depend on the rhythmic presence of melatonin. Without it, repair is incomplete, and fatigue accumulates silently over days and weeks. This is why people who live with irregular light cycles often report brain fog, mood changes, and reduced focus, even if they sleep the same number of hours. The science of timing. When is the right time for your brain to produce melatonin? Your internal clock is not just one rhythm, but many. There's the sleep-wake rhythm, the temperature rhythm, and the hormonal rhythm. Melatonin acts as the conductor that keeps them in tune. Exposure to morning light within the first hour after waking is one of the strongest ways to anchor this rhythm. It ensures that melatonin will decline at the right time and return about 16 hours later. In contrast, working under artificial light all day and avoiding daylight confuses the clock. The next night, melatonin arrives too late, and sleep feels shallow. So, the best time to build your next night's sleep is in the morning. Step outside, let natural light touch your eyes, and your body will remember when night should come. The subtle art of resynchronization. Can you reset your rhythm once it has drifted? If your rhythm has shifted from travel, night shifts, or late-night habits, it can be reset. Start by defining a fixed wake time, not a fixed bedtime. Wake up at the same hour each day. Expose yourself to daylight, and the night will align within days. Add small evening rituals, dimming lights, herbal tea, slow breathing, gratitude journaling. These cues may seem minor, but your brain treats them as environmental data. Together, they rebuild the pattern that melatonin depends on. A final thought. Why does darkness feel healing when you let it? Melatonin is not about sleep alone. It is about rhythm, trust, and recovery. It connects your biology to the turning of the planet. When you let darkness return to your life, real, unfiltered darkness, you are allowing your body to remember something ancient. That rest is not the absence of activity, It is the foundation for everything that follows. So tonight, when the light fades, notice how your breath slows and your mind begins to wander inward. That is melatonin speaking. A molecule, yes, but also a reminder that you belong to a larger rhythm, the rhythm of night and renewal. If this calm exploration helped you understand your own rhythm a little better, stay curious. More science-based calm awaits in the next episode of Sleep Science Space. Community Invitation. Sleep Science Space is not just a channel, it's an experiment in shared calm. Every comment, every story about how these sounds help you, that's data for peace. So if you feel comfortable, tell me where you listen from, which country, which time zone, which moment of your day. I read everything, and it's deeply humbling to know that while you rest, others across the world drift together with you. If you're still awake, congratulations, you now understand more about theta waves than most people ever will. But knowledge is only half the journey. To experience theta, play a soundscape theta waves for deep sleep next. Let the tones fade into the background as you drift. You don't have to control anything. Your brain already knows the way. Sleep well, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next experiment right here on Sleep Science Space.